domestic debt exchange program.
Very well. They say that is to save the economy.
Fraudulent.
They say
one promise.
No, they say that is to save the economy. This is the big issue. My name is Selorm Adonoo. A number of your messages have been pouring in. Let me just quickly do a few of them, or maybe I go for a quick break, come back, do some of them, keep sending them in. And after the break, I will go to Richard Ahiagba. I want to hear from him on the reshuffle and what that means for the country for the next 2 years before we go for election. And I also find out from him if this is all we are expecting, because there was the big talk of a certain reshuffle, and we're expecting some big names, not replacements of people who have resigned. Are we to still expect something more, or this is just what it is? Of course, we have established that the president does not like to change personnel. Maybe good, maybe not. But we'll go into all of that. This is the big issue. We'll be right back.
Ever mobile phones, television, air condition, speakers, computers, laptops. When himself Franco Trading Enterprise, and that's why you're #1. Say open phones, papa pan and one kadie, and they brought that from so called phones bit to say Nokia, Samsung, iPhone, Infinix, Huawei, STG, Alcatel, and the phone beer open via Simubia, and your Franco Trading Enterprise. Boraya shop beer and we're gonna have fun beer. Nekopa dear. I so, Mamma Posamutunu do sopo, which have been bringing it to do not to know. And Franco Trading Enterprise. Franco Trading Enterprise. And your phone papa, and the accessories papa. I hear you.
Roses are red, violets are blue, Valentine's is approaching, so get ready for Shades of Love 2. Shades of Love with Aquaba 2023 is here again. Get your shade of red or pink outfits ready. Hit up your special one and plan a night of unbelievable fun and a whole lot of love. Listening to Aquaba's back-to-back hits. Shades of Love 2023 with Aquaba will be the night to remember for all those who love love, and happening in both Accra and in Kumasi. Date on Valentine's Day, the 14th of February 2023 at La Palm Royal Beach Hotel in Accra, and on the 18th of February at Ike's Cafe and Grill in Kumasi. Tickets are going for VVIP for 400 Ghana cedis, VIP for 300 Ghana cedis, standard tickets for 200 Ghana cedis, and for table bookings and cabanas and all enquiries, kindly call 027-227-7757. Get your tickets at the
City TV and City FM, Joy FM, YFM, Accra Mall, Eliza's Restaurant, Jolie Junction, Metro TV, La Palm Royal Beach Hotel.
Shades of Love with Aquaba 2023. It will be awesome. Media partners.
Powered by
Think Media Expert.
Hello, you're welcome back to The Big Issue. My name is Selorm Adonoo. We are live on 97.3 City FM, and obviously we are on City TV. We're also on City Tube. Go to YouTube, look for City Tube. You can join the conversation, and you can always go back anytime to watch it from City Tube. Join the conversation with you via WhatsApp on 020-444-7033. My guest this morning, Franklin Kujo, President Imani Africa, Gordon Eduji Tamaklo, private legal practitioner, member of the NDC, Martin Pebu, private legal practitioner, Alfred Thompson, former Deputy MD, National Investment Bank and MPP, Richard Ahiagba, Director of Communications of the MPP. A few of the messages that have come in here. This one says, when Martin Pebu said the solution to the problem is for the president to resign, we all saw him to be joking. But until that happens, the hole that they dug under Ghana cannot be filled in 25 years. Gariba sent that in from Achimota. This one says, this is what these people are planning and think. Okay, no, it's a long message you sent. Long message. Has the former CJ, this one is Ali doing, has the former CJ accounted for the COVID funds money? They should not play with our minds. We are serious here, and she is part of the problem. That's Ali doing. Ghana democracy is default. All must rise. This is from MJ. It says, democracy that turns heads against one another, terrorize the stability, peace, and security, exploit the people, corrupt the system in a vicious cycle of corruption free for all, without recourse to application of law, is a default and probably criminal than what it ought to be. Not quite clear, but more of Hamdan from Nuhini says, the only mistake Ghanaians made was voting for the MPP. 2024 is the right forum for Ghanaians to send that family and friends away. The MPP never admit their inefficiencies. Before one can solve a problem, you need to first admit that there is a problem. But Ronaldo and family members will never take responsibility. They are always right. They defend everything, even the devil. That's why Honorable Mujib is... okay, no, I don't know what this is. All right. Good morning, Selorm. I'm surprised that the simple questions you asked of Thompson and Richard has led them to talk so much without addressing the questions. Do they not have answers to your question? Maybe you should have brought them reminders. Okay. From Kofi in Tema, Franklin, I don't think the NDC must endear itself to the middle class to get them speaking about the ills like they did under the NDC. Otherwise, what agenda is it? From Kofi in Tema. All right. Richard, yes, your government did some reshuffle. I don't know how you will call it, whether it's a reshuffle or it's a replacement. I don't know what it is. But the concern is that in this era where everybody is talking about expenditure cuts, it appears the government doesn't even see it. It did not even leave the numbers or leave it as it was. It increased the expenditure. There's a minister of state now. Do you think this is the time for the creation of new rules, or this is a time for us to be cutting down on the numbers, like what we've seen in Cote d'Ivoire and is it Malawi, where we've seen a drastic reduction in the size of the numbers of ministers? And that goes with every other thing, the SOEs, deputy CEO or MD positions and all of that. That is quite a huge burden on the state. We were expecting that a reshuffle will bring some freshness. I don't know if you call this freshness. Some freshness, some fresh legs to move the economy to where we want it to be. Your thoughts on this, as we proceed?
Well, Selorm, thank you. I listened to Edward. He set his own questions. And so...
But you have just 5 minutes, so you kindly manage your time, yes.
No problem. As usual, I'll stay within time for you. The question of reshuffle is one that is preoccupied Ghanaians largely. And so it's not surprising that it's generated a lot of interest. To me, particularly, I've always maintained the position that the president, once elected, has a prerogative to put a team together that can deliver the mandate that the MPP promised that will deliver. And so, to that extent, I would defer to the president's discretion on the matter. Otherwise, would be attempting to tie his hands behind his back and then expect him to deliver. So he has a prerogative to do that. And so, what we have seen come up, I think, is restructure to the extent that he wants to put the pieces together to deliver. I think Edriji mentioned about the Honorable Obiama's elevation or moving from deputy to become Minister of State. There is nothing very consequential in terms of income or revenue that is going to earn or change in the condition of work. What I think perhaps that will be trying to do, the local government and rural development is a very critical piece in the effort to decentralize and make democracy very personal and at the doorstep of our people. And that's one thing that has been elusive. We haven't been able to efficiently or properly decentralize, if you like. And that is one thing that we must do if, as a country, we want to really bring governance closer to the people. So I think that there must be a plot in the president's mind. And He's one who, even in his history as president, has been looking to deepen the process of bringing governance to the people. On one hand, the creation of the 6 additional regions, that is to break it down and make sure governance is closer, and also his spirited effort to want to democratize the local governance system by completing the process by having MMDCs voted for. And so you see a plot in his mind to say that Ghanaians must have larger say in our democracy. So this may be an attempt to have somebody at a Jubilee House or a Minister of State, perhaps detailed, to try to see how do we realize that. And I can tell you this to some extent, maybe as a matter of some conversation that I'm privy to. The president is interested in looking at how is it that we can achieve what we failed to achieve the last time of trying to have MMDCs be voted for. That conversation is one thing that is committed to, and I don't know, this may be an occasion for him to try and explore the avenue for that to be done, which would be beneficial to Ghana largely. So I see some value in that. And also the ministry, the local government is also a very critical place. Right now they are doing some very important work in respect of the property tax. They have done very, very extensive work in trying to streamline how is it that the assemblies are able to generate some revenue to allow for the governance process at the assemblies to be resourced in ways that would allow for development at the local level. So you may want to imagine also that there is some impetus to things that the elevation of Obi Amwa, who has extensive knowledge and experience in that space, to be able to give it some drive to make sure that we realize the objectives that he has set for that sector of the economy. So truly, I think that the question of reshuffle in terms of the pieces that has been put together, I would always urge people to see it from that standpoint, that you don't want to tie a president's hands behind him. While we may be interested in seeing a certain movement, if those movements we want to see, if they happen and that affect outcome in a certain way drastically, we'll be the same persons who will say that, or why has it not generated this? Why have we not seen that? And you also raised the question about the 30% reduction in salaries of appointees. I would want to agree with you to say that the finance ministry needs to do us some big favor. I've asked these questions in certain situations to say that just tabulate that. Far from, I think your concern was what is being useful. I'm saying that far from, what is being useful, just give us the global sum. What has been realized a year into it, a year after. Give us the total number. Now, that is going to require some, effort and some, calculation that can be done. I think Controller Accountant General Department can also take that up and just let us know the reductions you have made over the period. How much is it? Then they ask to whether it is used to build roads and all hospitals and the rest of what we can see it. I am interested in that. I've asked that question in close quarters. And I think that since you have said it, we can ask that. It's not as if they can't do it. It's not as if they are not doing a deduction. Before I resigned from the office of the president as Deputy Director of Research, my salary was docked by 30%. And so I know it's being done. All we need is that they should tabulate and let us know. That, for me, I can say to a large extent the finance ministry is not really preoccupied by it because they feel that is not the meat of the matter. But for a political person or for a party political person, for me, it's important. They are doing the hard work of trying to move the economy and all that. But these issues are key so that I could report here that for the past 1 year and then a couple of months into it, in 2023, this is how much government, through its creative efforts to cut government expenditure, we've realized by the reduction in the salaries of appointees. So I think that it's important for the political side. It's not particularly consequential in terms of the policy, administrative side, which is why the finance minister has not done it. But I would appeal to them on this platform that do it, because it makes for good political conversation to say that we have realized this much so far, so people can see how much it is we have realized, and that adds up to all the effort government is putting in to try to demonstrate serious consolidation as far as government expenditure.
Very well. Yes. Yes. The general thinking really is that when we had talk about reshuffle, the thinking was that government was going to reflect the situation on the ground, asking us to burden share. Government also has to shed off a bit of its weight. Government has become quite obese. Shed off its weight a bit, so we all know that we are in this together. Government doesn't appear to be doing that. Already in the budget of 2023, we know government is planning to spend way above what it did last year. Huge deficit will result. In this our current economic difficulty, we will have to finance or fund that deficit. It doesn't appear government is seeing the reality on the ground, which is unfortunate. With this reshuffle, people expected that we will see a reflection of what is on the ground. Were you underwhelmed by the nature of this reshuffle, or it was just business as usual for you?
Well, in fact, to be honest with you, I am impressed with the individuals that have been brought forth to continue to deliver for Ghana. And then the question of being underwhelmed doesn't arise, because the opportunity to reshuffle is a process, and it doesn't mean the president cannot reshuffle tomorrow or cannot reshuffle the day after tomorrow. So it's not a destination we have arrived at, and so much that the president cannot reshuffle again. He's done what needs to be done now. He's looking, and I think that president has given indication to this several times over, to say that he is constantly monitoring to see that if things are not going the way he wants them to go, because as the vision bearer, he will make the changes that are necessary to make.
But,
so
yes.
on that score, I just will appeal that with all respect, let's grant the president the opportunity to be able to make the decisions in terms of how he wants to play us forward. Because if we don't do that, we will not take responsibility equally in terms of whether or not he realizes the objectives that he and his party is set to achieve for Ghana. So on that score, I want to say that let's grant it. In the first term, we saw the number of ministers has been cut down tremendously. He is looking at the best way to play Ghana forward. So on that score, I think that we should proceed cautiously.
Very well. But
now,
will you say that?
Yeah.
Will you say that this current one? Will you say that the reshuffle, as we've seen it, imposes further expenditure or further financial burden on government? Does it increase the size of government budget, in your view?
You see, no, I don't think so. But I don't have the specifics for you. But if you look at the instance of Herbert Crapper being moved to energy, is a net, it's a zero.
It's horizontal,
effect,
yes.
Right? In terms of it doesn't bring anything. The movement of perhaps Honorable Anta to
Minister of
Finance.
State. Yes.
Minister of State. I don't know, unless we look at the numbers. I don't think
that imposes a slight burden. Yes, and it's not just in the take home.
I wouldn't think so.
It's not just in the take home. It's not just in the take home. Now he's treated as a minister. His allowances and the requirements of his office, the public purse will have to suffer that. Again, Obi Amwa moved from deputy minister to minister of state. I mean, the privileges of his office must be enhanced now. The public will bear that cost. So essentially, it has brought debt or some.
Selorm, I mean, we're making very generous assumptions here, which I think we should stay away from. We have capacity. You have capacity to get the numbers, and we can.
I do have the numbers. Of course, CDD has done some work on that. CDD has told us how much a minister of state earns. So, for example, minister of state who is an MP earns 30,644. Okay. Cedis. And then a minister of state I mean, it goes on and on. Ministers who are MPs, ministers who are not MPs, Minister of Civil and MP who is not, we know what they earn. And so we know what the difference may be. The difference may not be very huge as in the take home, but there are other requirements or privileges of his office. I don't know what they drive. But for example, if a deputy minister drove a certain kind of car, a minister of state obviously will have an upgrade. And who bears the cost of that upgrade? That is the conversation. So we have the figures, we have the capacity. That's what we're doing.
So I mean, it becomes a very exaggerated conversation, looking at the magnitude if you are not putting the numbers to it. If you put the numbers to it, you realize that if there is any change at all, these are changes that these individuals can decide to say, look, we are not standing up for it. I'll tell you something, right? There are people. When I was at the office of the president, I was supposed to have this benefit, that benefit, this benefit.
But you didn't
get any of it.
Okay.
At all.
Very well. Maybe you didn't push for it. Maybe you didn't push for it.
No. Listen, it's not about being pushed for it. I'll use myself as an example, but I want to tell you that is the situation. I can name people for you right now who are supposed to be government apartments, and they are not, and they're supposed to get rent allowance, they are not getting it. People are not getting all these benefits.
Very well. Very well.
No, one second. Let me just conclude for you. Maybe one of these days we should have a general conversation. The sacrifices that we are talking about, people are making it. It's just because people were not speaking about it, people don't hear about it. But all of these benefits you are talking about. Last time I was listening to the Minister for Employment and Labor Relations. He was talking about him being on his MP salary. So all of these individuals are making significant, concessions that is going to help the public purse. I think that we should speak about it. But the key thing I don't want us to confuse in the matter is that the prerogative of a president with a burden to deliver a certain goods to the people must have the team, must have the leeway to be able to make the appointments and the team that he needs to be able to help deliver that.
Very well.
That if we grant that, then we can have a conversation about what is going into it, which I can tell you is not much. If we
very
do
well.
the numbers.
Great.
And ultimately, let's grant him the opportunity to make that.
Yes, Franklin Kujo, you saw the names. Your colleague in civil society, Anta Andam, who actually founded ASEP. Very useful CSO and all of that. So you should be happy to have a representation at that level in government. Of course, he's always been there, but he's been moved up a bit. You should be happy for him. Beyond being happy for him, what do you think of the reshuffle or I don't know what to call it really, of what we have just seen the president do? Was this what we expected? Was it underwhelming? Or we've given up, so that's what it is. We can't be bothered.
Anta obviously is a professional, and he's executed his duties wherever he's found himself. That said, I don't think this is a reshuffle. Of course, in the sense that Ghanaians are expecting. It is a reshuffle in the sense that people are being replaced, but within the current political milieu, I'm not too sure that is what people were expecting. I think my good friend Richard just signed off by saying that the government needs to be able to execute its mandate if a certain number of skilled personnel or as experts or whatever, personnel. But I think the question we should be asking ourselves, and I think going forward, what we should be having, we should have some sort of a charter with politicians in government, is that we need to give you a charter that says if you're able to deliver certain kind of growth, real growth, maybe 10% or 7% or 9%, we require a certain skill set and the number of these skills that must be, adapted in order to get us that growth. Unfortunately, we should not be able to have that conversation. I call it the optimal growth charter, where you are asking people essentially to pay a tax in order to deliver a certain amount of development, a certain level of development. I think it's important that we start asking questions as to what clear, probably we set a bar, some sort of a bar, as to what numbers you could actually bring to government. Maybe that's even the better option, rather than ask you to give us a certain number of skill set that you may require in order to deliver a certain kind of growth. But that could be counterintuitive. So I think we should set a bar. And I suspect the Constitution quietly seems to have even set a bar already, just that because the presidency has been given these expansive powers, it decides what to do with and then what not to do. So coming back to the question, really, I didn't think the president served the country well, and it seems to be living in some sort of a bubble, really, because everybody seems to be speaking about this whole concept of reduction in government, the size of government, and it's not just personnel, by the way. I think we also need to be quite conscious of the fact that beyond the personnel that we need to take a look at, we also need to look at the programs, projects, and policies that have been rolled out as well. I mean, I keep saying that free SHS, even though we still say that we should have some sort of co-sharing arrangements for parents, I don't even think that is the single most important factor when it comes to finances that are being bled one way or the other. I mean, 2 billion for free SHS is okay, but if you tend to look at the other expenditure plans and programs that we have, I mean, you could be bleeding, and they are just bleeding the state. I keep saying that the Ministry of Special Development Initiative was one of the biggest, disservice the Akufo-Addo government did to this country by creating a ministry, superintending it at the Office of Government Machinery under the presidency, has this penchant for spending on projects that were significantly nebulous. Was quite our undoing. And even though the ministry does not exist in name, it's members really are all listed under the Office of Government Machinery, still drawing salaries in one form or the other, or supervising certain projects. I think we should be looking at the root and stem approach to this whole exercise of downsizing government. And like I said, we should have a charter going forward that you need to be able to show us what you can execute with a set number of skills that the country would have imposed upon you.
Very well.
But with even that, it's important for politicians to be able to tell us that, look, we'll run this country like corporates run, because you're using people's money to develop the country anyway.
I see. Great one. Martin, was it clear the direction the president wants to take the country with this new appointments he made into various ministerial positions? What's your reading of where he wants to take the country from here? Richard alluded to a certain focus maybe being given the local government ministry by the sheer elevation of Obiama to a minister of state status. What's your thinking? You think it's clear where the president is going with these appointments?
Not at all. Mr. Thompson, today is a bad day. Not at all. It's vague. It's just so vague. The president will not engage with us. Civil society, he says what? We are self-appointed wise men and all that. So he just says that's the president typically. He's in charge. He's large and in charge. That's it. Everyone else doesn't matter. Tintin, like we say in Chi. Or Mampam, he hasn't heard. The Mampam doesn't listen to.
The Bible is Nebuchadnezzar.
The Bible Nebuchadnezzar. Actually, President Akufo-Addo, sometimes I sit back and I'm like, wow. So our only sin is to have voted for him and to be treated like, you heard the point Eduji made. He's destroyed our democracy. What the president has done, when the Jew was speaking, he was just speaking my mind. Akufo-Addo is run our democracy down. So I just pray that the next president doesn't look at what he's done. It's just one man. Your ministers come. You see the MPs in parliament, led ably by Apia Kubi, Honorable Buama, and the rest. The 98 MPs, and later, Oseche Mensah said even the whole of majority caucus. They came and stood there and say, Oforiatta is involved in despicable conflict of interest. I beg, can you get your producer to replay that tape? Despicable. That's why I said conflict of interest. And they, as MPs, were compelled to kind of whitewash such despicable conduct. He's been involved in reckless borrowing. All the things he said. 98 MPs, and later even Honorable Oseche Mensah, God bless him, was able to rally all of them and said all of them as majority. They are saying sack Ofori-Atta, and then the president could come back and do all things, and later was even threatening them, threatening that people will be voted out at primaries. Then he says,
did the president say that?
Did you hear him say that?
People, no, I mean the party. Let me come this way. Let me look at the meeting. I understand they were threats. So, so that one is grapevine.
It
happens. Even feeling people are giving them in their
know that. We don't know.
No, but it's funny. It's grapevine.
You don't do that.
Don't do
that. And then the president now said Ofori-Atta was leading the negotiations with the IMF, which is a very weak argument. Selorm, weren't you there when Kwesi Kwarteng, the British finance minister, he was in Washington at the same IMF meetings. When he was recalled, he was removed, come back home, sacked quickly. And you see the kind of weak arguments that the president is giving us. So I'm like, what? We've been sold the wrong product. Wrong. Look, Selorm, let me tell you, is when you want to know a Akufo-Addo, let me read this number of promises, these field promises, then you understand. It says one.
Read just three.
It says one, I shall protect the public purse. Right. 2, I'm too old to steal your money. I have my money already. 3, Yatisikaso is a come there. 4, try me and see. 5, I'm not corrupt and I'll never be corrupt. Now lie today, you see. 6, I can develop Ghana without borrowing money. The money is here. 7, I will transform Ghana in 18 months. 8, I will not operate a family and friends government. 9, I will fight corruption with an Anas principle. Lie.
So yes.
10,
so Mark, the point is. So the point is.
So you see, so Akufo is just a great deceiver. He deceives. He doesn't mean anything he says. He just likes, you see, he reads the mood of the country, then he jumps in. Very, very opportunistic. He rides on the people's emotions. So he rode on our emotions, came into office, and now he has a field day. Selorm, don't forget, at the end of President Akufo-Addo's presidency, his number one legacy, or let's call his legacy, is that he and his family became rich ahead of anything else. No. Now the family becoming rich is the first agenda. Free SHS there is now second. Yeah, I allowed him for it. I support free SHS, but the family becoming rich is his number one legacy. That his family, he and Ofori-Atta, became very, very rich.
Martin, that's fine.
Yes.
So let me come to you quickly. Then we can also
5 minutes or so.
Get into the Public Accounts Committee, the Auditor General's thing quickly.
I'll just start by saying that it's a very unfair and unfortunate comment about saying that Akufo-Addo has destroyed our democracy. Everybody and the style they like to operate. You might want it, or you might like him, or you might not like him. One day, maybe
over 70% of Ghanaians say that the country is headed the wrong way.
Which 70%?
From CDB reports, from the global
Can I deliver? You've given me 5 minutes. So every interjection, I'll take a minute.
We have to do that.
Thank you very much. So when you say that it's unfair, I mean, he has a style. One day, I believe that you'll be praised for it. Listen, even Nkrumah was run down when he was president. They called him a dictator. They said so many things about him. Today, we are praising Nkrumah. So you might not like his style, but he has a style of doing certain things. Now, coming back to the ministerial thing, when you look at the ministers that he's put in place, over 90% of them are already MPs. Over 90. Do your calculations and see. You realize that when he tells you, I'm protecting the public purse, as he's saying, if I've brought 90 MPs who are already on payroll, whether you put them there or not, they're on payroll. As compared to previous governments that you will get about 40% of the people not being MPs. You realize that he's putting something substantial in place. He cannot, in these difficult times, say that, listen, I'm going to cut down on the size, especially when you know that there are issues. We have serious economic issues. You have serious issues with sometimes even the Auditor General reports. When most agencies, you have to supervise before
people be elevated.
I'm coming until you put things in place. So when you have about 90% plus of your MPs being already of your ministers being already MPs, at least you have a fair amount or a sizable amount that are already in government. Look at these moves that he made. Talking about the reshuffle, 7 people were moved around. Out of the 7, only 1 person came from outside, and who is not an MP. That is Asamoah Barton for chieftaincy. The rest are already in the system, and the rest are already MPs. So where has it gone wrong there? You see, sometimes when we are doing these comparisons, let's be really, really circumspect, and also let's try and analyze it from a lens that is not political. Otherwise, we spoil the conversation, and what happens is that we dirty the waters, as if the person is not being rational or it's not being reasonable. But he's looked at all these things. You took Alan resigned. Alan wasn't an MP. Akoto resigned. Akoto wasn't an MP. Edu Boahen left office. He wasn't an MP. 3 people who are not MPs have left, and 1 person replaces that. Just one person replaced all these 3. I mean, isn't it cutting down on some of these expenditures? Let us look at it holistically. We talked about the 30% pay cuts. The 30% pay cuts, the onus was given to the accountants, controller and accountant general, to make sure that they do all those things before people are even paid. So before you even get your payment, the money has been taken off. What now we need to do is to ask the accountant general or the controller and accountant general to tell us how much has been received so far and what the monies have been used for. I believe that it's been used for some of these government machineries that have been going on. But it's supposed, with now that we've brought about the opening of the, the information, right information, which was even done under the same president, which we are now criminalizing him. I mean, he's done well. We can get any information we want. So once we ask the accountant general to at least give us a brief on what has been gotten so far, what the money has been used for and everything, I believe that you give us that result. And so we should see that most of these MPs, ministers that we are at least trying to put in place are going to continue with the programs and policies that are already there to make sure that they are really aligned. And before you can say that, okay, MPs go back, even if you move the MPs that go back to work, but I'm cutting down, they'll still receive the salaries that they are receiving.
I see.
To finish on Eduji's point that he said, help me to help you. You see, sometimes let us not misconstrue what people say. Minister is looking at the economy that is going down. He's looking at rebounding this economy. We are in an economic crisis. He says, help me to bring the economy back on track. And by helping me, it also helps you to also get your funding or your monies that you've put in bonds and everything to be at par at what it is now. Where has it gone wrong?
Very wrong.
Let us not try and spoil things because we have our political lens or we want to rain or shine, come into government. So whatever anyone says, you want to destroy it and make it as if the person is being too over political or too being in a conscious situation where he wants to destroy things. So please, sometimes let's put the political lens aside and look at it holistically.
Interesting point
you
you made about the 3 guys leaving government and
Alan, Akoto, and
3 MPs coming. Very interesting. I've not really looked at that in terms of its
and
impact
only
on
one person coming back.
So yes. So Alan not an MP, Akoto not an MP. And which other
Edu
one? Edu Boahen, not an MP. And then now we have Katie Amon, who is an MP.
Yeah.
We have
Obi Amwa,
who is an MP.
And also Amin Anta, who is
that's
also
an
an
interesting
MP.
one, though. But let's see. So we'll take a short break. We'll return, and then we'll quickly deal with the matter of the Auditor General's report and his running issues with the AG. We'll just look at it briefly. Public interest versus legality of the publication. This is the big issue. We'll be right back.
Is this Nami floor? Yes. What is it with pig feet? No.
Ghana is a country that's full of historical antecedents and rich cultural heritage. What is a rich cultural heritage without soul food? And what is soul food without a touch of ethnicity? And what is ethnicity if it's not from your village? The season of all things Ghanaian is upon us, and we are here to celebrate an aspect of our Ghanaianness with the Back to Your Village Food Bazaar, happening live from the 25th to the 26th of of March 2023 at the forecourt of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. Come, let's treat ourselves to delectable, authentic Ghanaian cuisine from the northern, the middle, and the southern zones of the country that reflect our true cultural diversity. While at it, we'll be jamming to genuine Ghanaian music amidst games, competitions, storytelling, and so much more. Interested vendors of indigenous foods are invited to register. Don't let this be another missed opportunity. Call 0205-973-973 to book a stand and be part of the Back to Your Village Food Bazaar 2023. Anyamime, the country make hot too. So come, let's enjoy some good food, resounding music, heartfelt camaraderie, and remind ourselves why Ghana is still our home at the Back to Your Village Food Bazaar on the 25th and the 26th of March 2023 at the forecourt of the AMA from 8 a.m. each day. The Back to Your Village Food Bazaar is powered by City TV with support from City FM and is sponsored by Volte Ghana Limited.
Welcome back to The Big Issue. We are live on 97.3 City FM. We are on City Tube, YouTube, City Tube, and also on City TV as well. We'll dive into our final discussion a bit briefly on the COVID-19 audit report and matters arising. The Attorney General has advised the Auditor General to pull down the publication of the report from his website. Attorney General is of the view that it is not proper for the Auditor General to publish the report the way he did. He thinks that his understanding or interpretation of the law, as it were, is that the report must be transmitted to the Speaker for parliamentary debate and, if necessary, parliamentary committee action. It's only after that that the AG or the Auditor General can publish it. But Section 43, I think, of Section 23 of Act 584, of which is the Auditor General's law, categorically says that the Auditor General must publish the report once it transmits it to the Speaker. So that's what the Auditor General has done. The Attorney General is trying to say a few things about how the two laws must be construed. This is set the cat among the pigeons, and civil society is not having any of that. They think that it is an attempt to control or direct the Auditor General, contrary to what the Constitution says. Richard Ahiagba, earlier in the week, spoke to us, and he says that he's in total agreement with the Attorney General. Richard, can you explain to us why you think that the Auditor General didn't have to publish the report, even though by law he's enjoined to publish it the way he did?
Selorm, I am not quite to say that I am not in agreement. That was the Attorney General's position, and that is a position subject to his reading of the law. So I think that one you will have to debate that to say that you agree or disagree. But I understand the logic with which he was approaching the conversation. What his intent is that there is a certain process in trying to understand what the audit process is, and to say that to publish the result before that process terminates creates a certain difficulty where you would have an individual or a certain expenditure discussed in public as though something wrong has been occasioned. But meanwhile, it needed deliberation, a process for deliberating about that particular expenditure to clarify it. And you know what exactly the Public Account Committee does is to review and give occasion to the people who've been surcharged in any way to come and explain why those expenditures have occurred, why the auditors disagree. And in that public hearing, the Auditor General representatives are there. So if there are any basis for any assertions to be made. They are referred to say if they agree or they found that. So it's a process of cleaning the process. And Selorm, audit is not a subjective exercise. It's an empirical verification. It's a verification of empirical data to see whether or not it conforms to process, to see whether or not there's justification. And so it cannot be subject to any
Richard, the thing is, before the Auditor General publishes his report, or before they finalize their report, the auditees, there's an auditees conference. The auditees have the opportunity to see what the auditors have done and respond to same in writing. And oftentimes we see in the report the auditees' response captured as well. So that opportunity of a hearing is been given already. The Attorney General interestingly talks about further hearing. I don't know where that is from. That they must be given a further hearing.
He's just talking about the instance to do with Public Account Committee.
But even once you give the document to the Speaker, and the Speaker gives it to the members of Parliament, public accounts, etc., essentially it becomes a public document because the representatives of the people have it. Once it's not been labeled a secret document, we all have it. So I don't see the point really the Attorney General was making that it should not be published. Once Parliament has it and it's not been labeled a secret or confidential document, we all have it because our representatives have it and we have the right to see it. So I don't really know yes.
No, you see, so one thing we have to do sometimes, and we don't do that often, is that when an issue comes, we should engage the issue dispassionately. Okay, I don't absolve myself of it. That's what we must do to step away from the issue and look at the merit. What the Attorney General said in recognizing what you just said about the report having been submitted to the Speaker, then becomes public document. He says that even though that is okay for the publication to happen, it prejudices the outcome when people begin to discuss it and construe it as a conclusive position before a Public Account Committee has occasion to finally exhaust their deliberation, which then gives another layer of opportunity to the spending officers to rationalize or to explain why certain expenditure have occurred. And you would agree with me that there are instances people go to Public Account Committee and there is clarity. Okay, so it's an audit is a process. It doesn't terminate the Attorney General's logic that in the law exists. So I read the release from CDD, and it makes pretty much the same point that the Attorney General made, except that they are disagreeing with him, which is to say that once you give it to the Speaker, you publish, and you give it to the Speaker, you publish it, then it becomes public document. But they forget to say that yes, Public Accounts Committee's job is to give a hearing. And so the logic of the Attorney General's position is that why wouldn't you let this hearing terminate? So this here calls for an amendment of the law. Okay, we can look at the situation and say, okay, why would
the AG knows what to do if he wants the law amended. He obviously knows what to do. Yes.
Yeah. So he's moving in that direction. So I in civil society, and my brother Franklin is here. I've worked in that space, and I'll continue to be an advocate for the right thing to be done to improve and strengthen our institutions. But let's not be so conclusive and categorical to say that this is an attack on institutions.
Very well. So Franklin, he's brought you in. He's cautioning that civil society, etc., should not be in a rush to say that the Attorney General's, advice, properly so called, to the Auditor General to unpublish the documents is an attack on that institution. Especially, I know a lot of you have said that based on what we just saw happen to Domelevo. Quickly.
For me, I'm not even so much concerned about the legal gymnastics, as I call it. The fact of the matter is that successive Auditor General's reports have revealed instances of infractions. And this is not the first, and this is not going to be the last. So I was wondering what exactly the Attorney General was worried about. Is he worried about the fact that there was the revelations about the fact that only 25% of the money raised was spent directly on health, social relief, and security issues created by COVID? Is that what he wants to contest really with? or he wants to contest the fact that out of the $250 million, nearly, well, that was spent on water and electricity. The government still owed about $50 million. Is that what he wants to contest? Does he want to contest the fact that of all the expenditure that was spent on the things they said they were going to do, only 3.5% was spent through the Give Me system, the very accounting system that we've created for ourselves? And those are the matters that matter to us, really. I don't know how questioning that or having a public accounts committee hearing would have undone these particular scenarios that are inimical to our financial, our financial sustainability plans. For me, those are the things that matter to me. So I don't really see, for me, I thought probably it was just to make the headlines, simply because they wanted to find a way of, if you like, dousing the fire the report has created. I don't forget, the government was not even interested in doing audits in the first place, unless compelled by the IMF. As I say, I don't want to get into the motives at all. I'm just asking myself, having seen the report, these rather stark revelations, were they going to be undone by public accounts sitting? I don't think so.
I see. All right. Eduji, let me come to you. Right?
We don't have much.
Yes. So kindly explain to me. I mean, you're a lawyer. You and Martin. Explain to me what the Attorney General could have been thinking about when he says that the laws governing the functions of the Auditor General ought to be construed as a whole. So juxtaposing Section 23 of Act 584 and then 187 of the Constitution.
Your Attorney General is simply busybody. What usually we call medicine interloper. That's what he is. See, the COVID-19 audit report has established beyond doubt that as we speak, $81 million of Ghanaian taxpayers' money is with a supposed vaccine supplier. The Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana should be interested in ways to recover that money, $81 million and other monies. His interest is why Ghanaians know that 81 million of our money is with someone. This is an Attorney General who claims or he's in court prosecuting others. What is his complaint? That the Auditor General ought not to have published the report. First of all, if you look at the transmission letter the Auditor General signed, 30th December 2022, it was to the Speaker. Subsequent to that, it was published on their website without more. Where is the infraction? Because already Section 23 of the Audit Service Act mandates him to publish it.
And especially when the Constitution is silent about publication.
Yes. So, and remember that the Audit Service Act even provides the right of appeal and the time to do so. So it adds to the constitutional provision to beef up the powers. In any case, where the Constitution has not set a limit, you, the Attorney General, cannot insert a limit. If in the superior wisdom of the framers of the Constitution, they intended a limit on publication, they would have done so. Because you notice that when it comes to petition for the removal of Superior Court judges, they say do it in chambers. Because they don't want it published.
But anyway, he said it's just advice.
No, but who solicited this advice?
He's just advising the withdrawal of the report.
Who asked him for the advice? In any case, the Auditor General, when he needs advice, he has lawyers. Two, the independence of the Auditor General is guaranteed by the Constitution. In fact, the Constitution says in the performance of his duties, he is not subject to the direction and control of any other. What Godfrey Dame is simply doing is to intimidate the Auditor General and to send a message to him that beware of what happened to Domelevo.
I see.
And you see, what for me is even more dangerous for our democracy is that, look, the Supreme Court in Occupy Ghana, among other things, had always sought to strengthen the powers of the Auditor General. This is the most reckless comment or advice I've heard an Attorney General profile on the work of the Auditor General. When there's $81 million to be recovered.
I see. Very well. Martin, very briefly on your take on the Attorney General's view. Advice, he said advice.
Yeah, this one, I think this Senior Godfrey Dame has got it wrong. He shouldn't, you see, timing and everything. I don't see how I can support such an advice. It's just the timing and everything about it is so wrong. It's so wrong. This one there, Alabarka, it should come again. This will not fly at all.
What do you think the Auditor General should do with the advice?
Throw it away. Just throw it away. Throw it into a dustbin. That's it. We've strengthened our democracy this far, and then Mr. Dami comes to do this. That's right. So that's why maybe Frank Mikujo is saying maybe he's doing politics. He just brought it in to douse the heat on the report. We've strengthened our democracy with the publication of the report. We are not looking back. Look, Article 187, Clause 5 only says, inform Parliament, but he didn't say hide it from the rest of the populace.
Very well. Okay, so final words.
I believe the Auditor General and the Attorney General worked with other lawyers. He didn't take this in isolation or his own mind.
He worked with lawyers in his department.
And definitely they'll judge and have advice on it. He's quoted relevant portions of the Constitution on which he premised his case on. It's just informing. I mean, so he hasn't said that, listen, if you don't withdraw, I'm taking you to court or anything. He's just told him that this is the situation, this is the thing we are in. On the premise of the 81 million, it went to UNICEF and a company. So I don't think it's money that is lost. It's money that can be recovered. So if we take a political light on it, I don't think it will help all of us. The monies, the health ministry has explained that we didn't have enough space. And when you are negotiating for some of these things, the more the amount you pay on it and how soon you pay on it also gives you the chance in which you can get your vaccinations quickly. So if there's 81 left, it was about one something, and we've got some of the medicine, 120 million. And if we have 81 left, I don't think anyone is stating here or in the report that is missing. I am looking at the way we can get less infractions in most of the Auditor General's reports. We are growing as a nation, and the more we grow, we should try as much as possible. People should learn from this. And also those who are bringing these infractions, I think it's high time that people should be punished for some of these infractions, because the more we leave it open, the more it gives the chance that any report that comes out, any report from the Auditor General gives people the chance to also bring up more infractions. But when people are punished for it, we get a situation where there is a cutoff, and that is the most important thing we should look at.
Thank you so much. So this has been our show today. We've been live from on TV and on radio and on CityTube. You can at any time catch the playback of it on YouTube. Go to CityTube and type the big issue, today's date, and you will have it, and you can watch it again. Later in the day, it will also be played back on City TV. You can also catch it. Thanks so much, gentlemen. We've had in the studio Godwin Eduji Tamaklo. Godwin is the same as Eduji. Godwin Eduji Tamaklo, private legal practitioner, member of the NDC. Alfred Thompson, former deputy MD, National Investment Bank, and member of the MPP. Martin Pebu, private legal practitioner and convener of the Individual Bondholders Association of Ghana.
I'll tell you something. See, a good name, man. A good name is good, oh. I'm telling you. In this life, a good name is good. So, my brother, work hard on your good name and fight even harder to keep the good name you earn. Because, see, I have come to understand that, it's not everything that money can buy. It's not everything that money can do. You can have plenty money, but still some doors will not open to you. But you see, the truth is that if you have a good name and you don't have good money, I have attended funerals of some people who had very good names.